Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to Synchronicity Web TV. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. Well, I'm so excited to celebrate with you today my very dear friend, YURIRIA Robles. Now, she's become a regular on my channel, to be honest, because I love her so much. And I think she's so brilliant. And I really want as many people as possible to know brilliant astrologers. So, of course, I've been sharing her a lot more lately. And YURIRIA, in addition to doing Spanish language horoscopes on my channel, having recently filled in for monthly horoscopes in English as well on my channel, is actually going to be coming back to Synchronicity University. I'm so proud to have this caliber of astrologer back at my school. This time, YURIRIA is going to be back for a 5-week course on the part of fortune. And she's actually the perfect person to teach this. Yes, she and I wrote a book on Mayan astrology together, and she is recognized as a world expert in Mayan astrology. But what you may not know is that she literally has taught on the part of fortune around the world. And she has worked for basically the Department of Fortune. She used to work for the National Lottery in Mexico. So she knows a lot about understanding fortune and the part of fortune in particular. And this 5-week class is going to be a very deep dive into understanding this and so much more. And I'm so excited that she is coming back just in time to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class if you sign up before Halloween of 2022. Well, YURIRIA, I love you. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
My dearest Nadiya, thank you for having me. It's an honor for me. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate your support, your love, and understanding of my work. So thank you for letting me share it with your friends and fabulous superstars with you.
You're amazing. Well, thank you. And, you know, I just think for so long, I've thought that you're an incredible astrologer. So I love that now I'm in a place where I get to share astrologers I love with more people. And a lot of people may know, I've said before, you are one of the very few people who really knows my chart. Like, you are one of the very few people that I will go to as one of my astrologers and ask for advice. And so I just think that you're that good. And so I love that people are getting to know you.
Thank you. It's an honor, as I have said. You know, we love this trade, this knowledge, and we have a lot to share. So it's an opportunity for us for me to share this with you and let people know a deeper meaning of astrology, or another point of view, because there are a lot of very good astrologers, especially in your channel and in the university and the classes you are sharing with everybody. But we all contribute to this knowledge, and we only grow with this as we learn from each other. So thank you, dear.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, it's so fascinating because someone who is a student of mine for many years, who I adore, sent me a message and was very upset because of one astrologer's interpretation of a particular aspect or lack of aspect in a chart. And this person took this interpretation very personally and was very upset and was like, is this what the astrology community is? And I responded and I said, you know what? Astrology and the community of astrology is a very broad umbrella. There is lots of space for everybody. And part of the fun is sharing our unique understandings of our relationship to the sky, of our own interpretation. So of course, that's going to be so personal, without a doubt. But I know that the part of fortune is something you have studied and taught about for so many years. In fact, I think the very first time I met you, which must have been 2014 when I met you, you were actually teaching at a conference in Mexico City. And you were teaching on the part of fortune. So it's kind of incredible that now you would be teaching the part of fortune for my school. So let me ask you, when did your interest in the part of fortune in particular start?
Well, as you know, I started working since 2011 in the National Lottery in Mexico. And that brought me to the daily confrontation with or presence of fortune. Since I entered to work there as an astrologer, I was asked regularly, if not daily, about fortune, in the sense that I had to inspire people to play, because if we play in the National Lottery, the lottery can help with a lot of social work for the rest of the country. And it has been like that for more than 250 years. So the word or the meaning of fortune was always present every day of my life since that time. And I started also working, presenting Mayan astrology. And I had to think and realize what was fortune for them. It was not for us. And being a historian, also it happened again when the Spaniards and the Mesoamerican people encountered each other. They did have different points of view about fortune. The Spaniards, the Europeans, wanted to have gold because that was a fortune. And for the Mesoamericans, the food was a fortune. So that led me to think and review what is the meaning of fortune really, because it has not always been the same. And even for individuals, I have met with people that are very lucky in the lottery. They have a special gift. I will explain sometime later in how it consists. But they regularly win money at the lottery. That's a gift. And some people religiously buy their ticket to participate in the drafts, and they have never won a prize. But they have a collection of tickets for the lottery, an amazing collection that tells a whole story. So that confronted me with different points of view of fortune. The effects of fortunes are also very important to discern, because what one considers fortune might be a misfortune for others. It seems to be like a common ground or common knowledge, but I have seen it in life, and it's very painful to see when people earn a lot of money, win a lot of money, and it starts their misfortune. So it's something we have to really think about as astrologers, because we are demanded always about what it means, what is my fortune? And we have to know with our laws, with our techniques, what is the question really? Because sometimes we assume immediately it is about money and gold. And this is not always the case. So, and even though there is money, part of fortune is not involved. So what's going on there? That's why I kept saying every week in the drafts in the national channel for the lottery that fortune had many meanings and many ways. And now in this class, I want to enhance the capability of astrologers to discern what we are talking about when we have the part of fortune. What is it? And also, we have a special technique, astrological technique. We immediately go to the owner or to the planet that is governing the part of fortune, and then we give a verdict, an interpretation, and that's it. And I want, with this much experience, I want to share with astrologers that we have to augment, to grow in the consciousness in our consultants, in our clients, to ponder about what is their own fortune. What does it mean to have fortune? So that's the whole story, more or less.
No. Well, look, that is there's a few things that came to mind as you were sharing. I was thinking about how fortune means different things to different people. Yes, but fortune also means different things at different points in your life. And I think about how a story that I shared before is that when I was growing up, I wanted to be Madonna, right? I thought that I was supposed to be Madonna. And what I didn't realize at the time was that what I really was looking for was a platform. I was looking for an ability to share my ideas and my voice in the world. And that was really the only really big cultural example I had growing up was Madonna. She was the person who had sort of the attention and embodied the zeitgeist of the moment. And so that's what I thought I needed to be. And I remember when I realized that I am not meant to be Madonna. And I didn't know then who I was. And that was the beginning of a dark night of the soul for me. And on the other side of it, I became a full-time astrologer. It was only on the other side of it that I was really able to find what it is that brings me a sense of being at peace with myself and my life and feeling a sense of freedom that I need to feel personally. And that wouldn't have been possible if I had become Madonna. And, the universe already has one Madonna. It doesn't need another one. But, and so it's really cool now to be Nadiya Shah more and more. The older I get, the more and more I feel like who I'm supposed to be, which is great. And so I love that you mentioned that fortune means different things to different people. Now, if I had thought, my fortune is to be Madonna, if that had happened, some facsimile of Madonna, I just think that wouldn't be the pathway to what ultimately has brought so much peace and so many great things into my life. The other thing I was thinking as you were talking was that, well, look, to further that, sometimes we don't realize what fortune really is for us. And so it's great to have astrology so that we can dive into greater depth to understand that. The other thing is very often I've found that when people ask about, they ask about money or they're asking about something or other, very often it is that they don't feel at peace with themselves or at peace with their life. And I think that a big part of being at peace with yourself and your choices, for me personally, is understanding the moon, right? The moon, if somebody tells me they're not at peace, the first thing I do is go to the moon and I tell them to act like the moon sign, act like or pay attention to the house of the moon, right? These are ways in which you can start tapping into feeling more at peace. Now, I know the moon is a big component in understanding your pathway to the part of fortune in particular. It's just one component, yes, but it's an important one, right?
Yeah, it is very important. It's actually it's a threesome part. We have to be very clear in a reading for the client that they have to make peace with the moon precisely because she rules everything in the sense of how it moves, but also with the sun and also with the ascendant. These three concepts have to be very clear to the client, for us, of course, to explain it, but also to the client, and not to dismiss, well, yes, all that, but what about my Pluto? What about my Saturn? And go over these essential components of the psyche of the person. And these components constitute two things that we have to be clear and that astrology has had a lot of problems with it: free will and destiny. Because at the time we are born, we are already in our destiny. We have the body we have the origins we have the place and the time where we were born. That was destiny. That's it. But then what's the role of free will then? So we have to explain that. What is the extent that astrology shows us about free will in regards to the mixture of all that? From one side, it will be the part of fortune, that's true. And from the other side, it's the part of the spirit. So we have to discern what did the ancients meant about spirit. What is it that the part of fortune, part of spirit is is talking about in regards to the part of fortune. And they are mirror images. So we have to be comfortable moving about, not only our moon, as you say, of course, but also between the moon, the ascendant, and the sun. We have to know this road very clear. It is as if this was our own wheel of fortune. The movement, the moving comfortably between these three signs. Of course, it is like the Sphinx, you know, the Egyptian Sphinx. In ancient mythology and lore and wisdom, you went to the Sphinx to ask for a response, or she posed a riddle for each individual to solve. The riddle of the Sphinx is the knowledge of our own destiny. What do I mean with destiny? The knowledge and feeling freedom, as you mentioned, between the moon, the sun, and the ascendant. Knowing that, from that you can read the rest, or be comfortable with yourself, and then grow for the rest. Yes, of course, after that comes the techniques, the astrological techniques we have, in the sense that who's ruling what part and how does it move. That's, of course, that is what the ancients described and taught us. But first, we have to understand what they meant with that. So I'm going to, in the class, point that out and flesh these concepts a lot more from that perspective, so the students can understand their own self from that point of view, and whoever listens as well.
I love that. I love that. Mm-hmm. It's about understanding what fortune is to you, but also mm-hmm. what fortune could mean to the person who's your client, the person whose mm-hmm. chart you're looking at, because mm-hmm. I think sometimes we want things for different reasons, right? Like now mm-hmm. when I reflect back, I think about how I wanted to be Madonna because she also, in addition to what I mentioned, she also represented a woman with power, and I felt very powerless. I had very low self-esteem growing up, even though I was smart. My own self-esteem really kept me back in so many ways, or my low self-esteem kept me back. And sometimes we want something because we think it's going to get us to a particular end, right? I thought I wanted to be Madonna because then I would be powerful. I didn't know that, okay, maybe my way of understanding my own power, what my power could be and how to embody that is going to be uniquely my own. And so I love that you do place emphasis on that so that we as astrologers can help people understand and clarify for themselves what fortune could be. And I love that, you know, with the part of fortune, we're talking about essentially a midpoint. And we talked about this in the first interview that I did with you on the part of fortune, which wasn't too long ago. And I'll be sure to link that below as well, where we talked quite a bit about how the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, what the part of fortune is ultimately what we would call a midpoint of the sun, moon, and ascendant. And so it's so interesting that the ancients called this the part of fortune, because normally you don't think about how the sun, the moon, and the ascendant are actually very intimately connected to fortune and how you experience it.
Yes, these parts, not only the part of fortune, but the parts that appeared in the Hellenistic period, which we will review as well, they all come from Platonism and the Academy of Socrates and Plato. And at the porch of the Academy, you read, "Know thyself." And it's a very nice sentence or maximum, but we go through it as if it were, okay, yeah, I will know myself. But actually, the first part of the reading of a fortune is to really recognize who am I. And also, it's not, we tend to look for now in the 21st century with short, concise answers. And not because we have 3 titles for each of the parts, the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, that is 3 signs. Not because it's only 3, that doesn't mean we are complex. It actually, each sign has a world of meanings that I prefer or adjust to. So it's not an easy task to solve the riddle of my own self. We can ask to have an allegory. We can go to the Sphinx and ask, who am I? And she will surely reply, look who you are, in the sense, from astrology point of view, what time you were born, where is your sun, where is your moon, where is your ascendant, and that's the way to know who you are. So that led me to the point of enriching the idea. And also it's even more complex, as I was saying, because one point is coming, depending on the night, we know the technique, we will explain it, depending on how we go. Sometimes we go from the moon to the sun, and sometimes from the sun to the moon. And that will have a dialogue between the parts. So we can have a whole trip about within us to recognize this road. And I was saying that because the ancients were very clear about this. And since that time, which is 200 before Christ and after, astrologers, poets, artists, philosophers, writers, even economists have written about fortune, have theorized about fortune. Even religious people have recognized fortune, but none of them have really clarified about their norms, about the rules, about the laws of fortune. They think it's fickle, or they made us think that it is fickle, not worthy of trust, that sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And it is very, very clear we have an allotment, a part of it, of the whole, ascribed to us. And we have to know, the second question to the Sphinx is, how do I get to my fortune? And the answer will be, go to yourself to get your fortune.
Wow. It's so powerful to consider how these ancient ways in which we arrive at the current modern wisdom that we do, and the very deep integration. And in some ways, it's almost like we as astrologers could be considered, maybe this is sacrilege to say, but do you think we're like the Sphinx? Do you think that that's the role we play for some of our clients?
Yes, I would think so. I would think so, because depending on the astrology, some astrologies are very precise, some astrologies are very mythical or artistic. So in any case, we invite the person to ponder about themselves. And then they leave thinking, maybe not receiving the exact precise question or aspirin they were needing, but they always leave the consultation thinking about themselves much more, knowing different parts of themselves that were not clear before. So the understanding, or for us having very clear definitions of what we are going to say to a client, he will then have a cultural framework in which to work with. Because if we say, well, maybe your part of fortune will be hit every time a planet touches it, or you will have very bad fortune because the such and so planet is on top of that, we sort of put an obstacle for them to achieve their own knowledge, their own understanding, and their own way to feeling good with themselves, just as you are explaining that you arrived to after so many years of searching.
Yeah. And sometimes, I like to think of the journey as the point, right? We put so much focus on the destination, but the journey ultimately very often is where you learn the most about yourself, and
Absolutely.
you truly are able to become whom it is that you are meant to become. And I think that that's really powerful to consider in light of the part of fortune as, again, last time you described it as a destination. which I think is so powerful to consider as well. And so, YURIRIA, I do just want to make sure that we touch on the different classes. Once again, you guys, YURIRIA is coming very soon back to Synchronicity University for a 5-part course on the part of fortune. So this is very exciting, and right until Halloween. So just a couple weeks left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, to really delve into this 5-part course on the part of fortune with YURIRIA Robles. Okay, so let's talk about the first class. You're calling it Celestial Astronomy and Astrology. So what can people expect for the first class?
Well, from the first class, we will discern what are we doing with astrology, because we get used to have it on a computer screen, a circle divided in 12 parts. We can argue about the division, but in 12 parts with little things moving around. But astrology is not about that. Also, it is about the celestial sphere. It's about the universe. So we have to change our point of view from a chart, from a circle in a paper or in a screen, to the view of to recognize again that we are reading the sky. That we cannot invent something if the moon isn't there, or any of the planets, or the sun, day or night. We are reading the sky. So how did the ancients came about to read the sky? What does it mean to read a sphere, not a circle? And from there, what do they mean about the part? Because now we get stuck in points. We think in the point of, we even say the point of fortune, and it's not a point of fortune, it's a part of fortune. And so we have to understand it from the point of view of geometry, because we are reading distances. And from there, we can read and understand why we say it is a journey, not a point to look at as if taking it out from the whole and just looking at it. Well, it's a good point, to great. It's a bad point, too bad. That's it. What's next? See? And then we lose all the geometry of the sky, all the knowledge that took thousands of years to arrive from many people around the world. So I want in this class to give that knowledge, to clarify very well what we are doing, reading a chart.
Yeah, I love that. It's so powerful. Your readings get better when you understand what you're doing, like not just technically, that understanding the techniques. And of course, this class is going to have tons and tons of techniques, like more than you could use in a lifetime, I'm sure. But it is the way in which you understand what you are actually doing before you really delve into techniques, which is the how. If you understand the what and the why, that just propels your readings to a whole other level. Like you become a better astrologer. You're able to speak truth to the client that much more if you understand what it is that you are actually doing, the intention behind it, the history behind it. It is a very powerful thing. And so your second class is called Origin of Fortune, Wheel versus Part of Fortune. So what is the second class going to have?
The second class is about the difference between wheel and part of fortune. We will discern from where does it come to be a part or a wheel. And in the middle of it is a study of the goddess herself, Goddess Fortuna. And you will be amazed about what importance she had at the beginning of our era in the Roman Empire, later than the Hellenistic Empire, and people never forgot about her. They forgot about the rules we are now learning or readdressing again. But she has been present and honored for a long time. So I want you to realize what is the difference. Why is it a wheel, or did they really meant a sphere? What did they meant really? So we are going to explore that in the second class.
And so how that contrasts with the actual part of fortune, how the different goddess might show up in both. That's what people can expect for the second class?
Yeah, I think that having knowledge about the wheel itself, the wheel of fortune, about the part of fortune and the sphere of fortune and Goddess Fortuna, we will be much more clear about what we are doing in the reading. So it will enhance our own understanding of fortune.
Wow. So 4 ways to understand fortune, and you're going to be diving into that. That's incredible. I absolutely love that. And so your third class is the way to our fortune. What is that about?
Well, that is about recognizing the many meanings about the interrelations between ascendant, moon sign, and sun sign. We will distinguish or define what I mean with those, and then from there we can reach the way to. That is, the students or the consultant will have a title, so to speak, about how to interchange the 3 of them and why is he interchanging them, he or she interchanging them. So we will have readings of their own chart, because I find something, when after a reading, if I ask a person about their fortune, their face from this perspective, their face illuminate in the sense that they recognize that they really feel fortunate when they are in the situation that the chart is pointing. But the person has to recognize it. So I want to transmit that to the students.
Wow. And so that is so fascinating, understanding how it is that perhaps you already are tapping into, already are living your fortune. It's a very powerful way to magnify fortune that much more for yourself.
I would agree, because it's difficult in this orientation to read charts about famous people, because we don't know if they felt fortunate about their life. That's why it has to be a personal reading. People have to recognize their fortune. I don't know, for example, Madonna felt very fortunate now about her situation in life. I don't know that. I know she, from many points of view, she was fortunate in growing in the amazing way she grew. But does she feel fortunate about it?
Wow. Yeah. How at peace is she really? How content is she with her life, with herself? I mean, hey, don't feel sorry for Madonna, right?
No.
Yeah. I
We
don't
are
feel sorry for any. Yeah, of course. But it's just the exploration itself. So understanding what your unique way to your fortune could be is part of what the third class is about. And so the fourth class is part of fortune and part of spirit. So can you talk about those two, how they mirror each other?
Really, that class is going to be amazing, because it will show us a different way to analyze the houses they are in. Because as they are mirroring, they are not in the midpoint, but they are mirroring each other. So we have to learn to see from the inside to our fortune or to our life or to ourselves, and also from the outside. It is very interesting to see how they relate to each other. I will also clarify what I think they meant by spirit, so we don't confuse it, because all of these concepts, free will, destiny, fortune, spirit, diamond as well, they all have evolved into an encyclopedia of meanings. But we have to go back to the root as long as it is possible, as where it is possible, to discern what they really meant, and to be at least more subtle about it, more simple about it, and take off the Christian interpretation of diamond, for example, or the philosophical interpretation, or the economic interpretation about these concepts, and give back to the consultant and to the students, of course, and the clients, their own power or their own free will to move the wheel of their own fortune, to arrive, to move to what they feel is important in the sense of their spirit, in the sense of their body, in the sense of their own manifestation in life.
Wow. And so to really understand more deeply that mirroring relationship, how that can change so much about the richness and depth with which you're able to understand your chart, your client's chart.
The client's chart, and also the houses.
The houses as well.
Yeah.
Wow. And so our final class, or your final class, is going to be called Integration of Concepts and Practice. What can students expect there?
Well, in that, whatever is left as a doubt, we will address it. But the aim of the class is to join or to have an interchange with the students about their own thinking, because we will have a month and a half, a little bit more, to ponder about our own fortune and what does our spirit have to say about all these meanings. And the aim of the class is to really have the handle of the free will between these 3 points in our life.
I'm so excited about your class, Yuriria. Look, I have said before, I just think you're a brilliant astrologer. You bring so much love to what you do, but also knowledge and insight and wisdom and reverence and integrity. And I have benefited so much from that over the years, having you give me advice, having you point out things that I didn't consider about what's happening in my chart, having you interpret things in my chart differently, interpret transits differently than I would. And all of it has certainly blessed my life. And so now to think of how you are going to continue to teach astrology, you have been for so many years, but now here at Synchronicity University, you'll be teaching astrology to help bring that sense of awareness and integrity and knowledge and techniques and insights and wisdom and love. I mean, I just think it's such a wonderful thing. So thank you so much, Yuriria.
No, thank you, dear, for this opportunity. I bless you from my heart. And it is true that I love astrology. I think it's the knowledge, the sacred knowledge in the sense of important, in the sense of clarifying, in the sense of enriching people. It's not about, of course, everything can be manipulated, everything can be maltreated. But for us to treat it as something dear, as something pure or clean or and submitted to the people, to know, to empower them, I think that's a very important task we have to fulfill. So thank you from my heart for this opportunity and for having me in Synchronicity University. It's a pleasure.
Yes, and you guys remember, Choose Your Tuition Rate is on only until Halloween 2022, so that you can join Yuriria for as low as just $5 a class for her live classes that are going to be taking place in November. And you can learn a lot more about that at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Yuriria, I love you. Everyone out there, I love you so much as well. Thank you so much for watching. And until we connect again, take care. Bye.
Thank you, dear. Bye.